What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
Another weekend with The Hook. Hey, thanks for joining us. My name is Josh, along with the marketing maverick. That is Jason Arcemont, and this segment being brought to you by Brightbox Brand Marketing. We have so much. Should we even sponsor this with Brightbox anymore? We have too much going on. We have too much business as it is.
No, don't ever say. Oh my gosh. No, we do not. We have a massive amount of open production time. We can handle all clients, any needs.
Jason is about to crawl across his console and slap me in the face.
Yeah, man. No.
We have been doing a lot of stuff, but we're always open to doing more, and we can do just about everything that you need.
Well, we're growing. That's a good thing. And especially right now, given the state of the economy in some industries, we're extremely pleased to be growing, and I think that's because we get massive results for our clients. Everything from marketing strategy to marketing implementation, all your basic graphic design and web development, video production, and then implementation of that marketing plan on a monthly basis. We've got you covered, and we are an ROI-focused marketing shop, unlike a lot of other groups.
The other thing that we do a lot of that we haven't really kind of keyed in on is content development. Do you know how hard it is to develop content for your website? Whenever you're building a new website, it's tough.
Not even how hard it is, but how important it is to do it right.
Because you have to have keywords for...
Yeah, if you care about search engine optimization or SEO at all, yeah, it's crucial. And yeah, that's one of the things that we help out with is content development, helping develop your brand voice, your messaging, your taglines, what needs to be on each page to help position that product, what type of call to actions or CTAs do you need to have. I mean, it's all strategy focused, it's strategy driven creative, and it's just an unbelievable marketing shop that I'm extremely proud to be a part of. So check them out, brightboxonline.com.
And thehookradio.com if you want to find out everything that's in our box companies.
Yeah.
Everything that there is to offer.
Yeah, we've got a lot, right? I mean, we've got from the marketing firm, we've got a trade show exhibit company, we've got a print company, HR outsourcing group and Shadowbox, staffing, payroll processing. We even have a corporate training group. So we've got, the vision that I had 8.5 years ago is finally coming to fruition, and now we're back focused on the individual companies and ready to keep growing, man. It's been good.
Our guest today is really awesome.
Yeah, we kind of alluded last week to the topic of mergers and acquisitions, and I got a couple inquiries and questions, and so I thought, why don't we bring on an M&A specialist? And we're going to call it M&A from now on, mergers and acquisitions. So
it's not MMA. It's not like mixed martial arts.
No, M&A.
Okay.
Mergers and acquisitions. So we've got Ivan Madrigal in studio with us this week. Ivan's got some amazing experience in mergers and acquisitions, dealing with, man, some of these things that he's done is, he's done a lot of mom and pop $1 million deals. But man,
mom and pop $1 million deals.
Well,
come across those any day.
But he's worked on acquisitions up to $1 billion. So, I mean, come on. So that's why I use mom and pop $1 million deals. So
that is a crazy, sick amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine just trying to value a company like that? I mean, what was the latest one? You told me about it. Actually, you were the one who broke the news for me with the FMC and Technique merger.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, they're saying that's a $13 billion. It's all stock, but still, it's a $13 billion merger.
It's an actual merger. It's from both sides. They're going in. So. That's going to be an interesting one because the tough part is that with a merger and you have two different countries you're working with, because Technique it's a French company.
Sure.
So there's going to be some part of it with the merger. Okay, some of it's going to be taking place over there, their implementation of things.
The culture integration is probably going to be tough.
True.
But, I think their goal, at least what they're saying their goal is to reinvent the offshore drilling industry is pretty feasible. I mean, with FMC's background in manufacturing and Technique's background in installation, subsea, installation, I mean, you're going to have a company that can handle it all turnkey, and maybe there'll be some cost savings, and who knows? But
I don't know. I don't even know that whole industry. I have no idea. And one of my good friends works over there
at Technique.
Yes, yeah. I have no idea that whole thing. We talk about drinking and the beers that we like. It has nothing to do with offshore and subsea and.
Yeah,
else.
well, and unfortunately, I'll say fortunately, I know more about that industry than I probably ever thought I would, just given that from a marketing standpoint, we have a lot of oil and gas clients, helping clients with branding, before they go sell, before they go to market, in a down economy. Things you need to do from a marketing standpoint, give me a call.
In a down economy, do you feel like you're in acquisition mode?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm not in an acquisition mode. Well, I am in an acquisition mode, but I'm not in it because of the down economy. I'm in it because our company is ready.
Okay.
As you know, whenever I started building this box series of companies 8.5 years ago, we kind of grew, vertically. Like we went from marketing, I started a trade show exhibit company, then we started a print shop and kind of grew that way. And now I'm kind of coming back to the marketing firm. I'm seeing that we're extremely solid and we've got a positive reputation and we're helping a lot of clients and the team is getting stronger. And so now I want to kind of leverage up that particular company. And so, I'm looking for, maybe what I'll do is we'll do like kind of like a live update. I don't know how exciting it'll be, but I am looking for buying other marketing firms, whether Houston, Colorado, maybe Nashville, Dallas, Austin,
Louisiana.
We'll I didn't go to Louisiana, but I could.
Louisiana, if you do something,
Louisiana right now is probably going to be a little tough for marketing firms.
In Lake Charles, might have to move over there. I don't know.
We're keeping you here, man.
Oh, well, then I'll just oversee that one. How about
that?
But
yeah, we're talking about mergers and acquisitions. I'm going to be going through some of that. At least I'm going to be scouting some companies out. I've got a couple here now that I'm talking with. One in Colorado and one here in Houston.
Fantastic.
And so maybe I'll kind of keep the listeners up to date on how that's going and some of the struggles. And I won't call anybody out or anything on the radio, but.
Can we do an up-to-date of what we did last week? Kind of bring everybody back to the cryo recovery?
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah. So last week we had Bill Hanks with Cryo Recovery. They're off of Louetta and 249, just
what
north.
A nice guy.
Awesome dude. Awesome.
That guy is great.
And a real first-class facility. I've never done this before, so I don't know if there's nicer, but I'm a branding guy, so I always kind of inspect things. And man, I'd say it was really nice.
Dude, a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
A great facility.
Yeah.
A great look to it. I mean, the logo's awesome.
Yeah, real friendly staff. I mean, everything, the whole process, the way we got it laid out.
Got a little uncomfortable.
Okay, so what it is, so those of you who don't know, is cryogenic therapy. You basically strip down in your underwear and you get in this tank with your head sticking out. Kind of like a fish tank. So your total submersion, and then they blast nitrogen-infused air of like a negative 100 degrees or something onto your body.
Look, yours was only negative 96.
And yours got up to 100. Okay.
No.
I thought yours got up. I thought somebody broke 100.
It was 108. Negative 108.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I mean,
all right.
It's
not a competition, Josh. It's therapy.
The funny part is that when this is how you do it. So Bill was he ran the chamber whenever we went in, and so Jason was first, and he's like, "Yeah, you just go in there, and you put these gloves on, you got the booties and your undies," and I was like, "Oh, wait, we're doing that in front of each other?"
Come on, man. Well, we were slapping towels. Yeah. No, we weren't slapping towels.
Yeah, we totally broed down.
Yeah, and it's freezing cold, so I'll leave it at that. So it's not your proudest moment.
Yeah, Jason goes in there, and it's pretty cold. I mean, it's 3 minutes, and you were shivering. You said that you could have stopped shivering, though.
I felt like there was I can control my energy and stop shivering, but you definitely just wanted to shiver because it's freaking cold, man.
I was really nervous, so
you were sweating so much before you started, you couldn't cool off, man.
I was sweating, kind of freaking out, thinking, what is this going to be like? And I put the gloves on, the booties, and I went in there. And to me, it was really cold, but it never got to where I was shivering. And I attribute all of that to having an extra layer of wool. My body.
You're a polar bear, man.
Yeah, I was a total polar bear. It was cool, and it got down to negative 108, but I wasn't ever feeling like I was going to shiver or anything. I guess just my internal warmth.
Yeah. Yeah, your little oven. I'm sure Nicole would agree with that.
And I'm fat. I mean, there's a little extra, layer all the way around.
Man.
It's my candy coating that helped me out.
Candy coating. Well, but yes, it was an amazing experience, and off of Josh's fat.
And then after that, we put the
compression things.
Yeah, the compression sleeves on our feet.
Like tube, you put your leg in, and then it goes through a compression session.
It was really great. I would say that if you have any aches and pains or inflammation, go by and see those guys at Cryo Recovery. And it's up on the north side, 249 at Louetta. We got to take a break.
We got real business stuff.
Yeah, we got to talk about the business tip. That's coming up next. You're listening to The Hook. You're listening to The Hook Radio Show. You can find us at thehookradio.com. My name's Josh. I work for Brightbox Brand Marketing along with Jason Arcemont. He actually owns it.
I work there too sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. He is the marketing maverick, and we have our business tip we'll tell you about in just a second. But this is being sponsored by ontoboxtraining.com.
Powerful training for professional people.
Is that the tagline?
Yeah, okay. That's actually it. I just made that up right now.
Okay.
No,
you sure Daniel didn't make that up? I'm just asking.
Daniel probably wrote that up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's our corporate training group. We do everything from kind of workflow process and analysis to help you determine best workflow for your company, your organization, looking at key roles and objectives versus your current structure and your org chart. We do a lot of sales training based on the seven triggers that we partnered up with Russell Granger. We do corporate training on culture development. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I can go on and on forever about all the different things, but main thing is if you're having growth issues, organizational issues, sales problems, or maybe not even problems, but just know that there's an extra 10 or 15% that you could get out of your salespeople, an extra 10 or 15% you can get out of your production. Go to ontoboxtraining.com, shoot us an email, and let's talk. It doesn't cost us anything to come out and talk with you about what you're currently dealing with and how we might be able to help.
Yeah, even if you don't need anything from Ontobox, you can also go to thehookradio.com and just shoot us an email if you have any questions, or maybe you just bought a company. Maybe you're thinking about selling your company. Maybe you just have a question about marketing or
can't figure out what SEO is all about.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that
we're here for you
we
guys.
Would like to talk about on the air, because we bring topics to the table every week.
Yeah, and pretty much what I do is whatever's been going on around me that week in business and with the companies and stuff, I say, okay, well, hey, that was relevant to somebody, and so let's bring it to the show. So if you guys engage more, and we do get emails, and I appreciate that. I respond to every single one of them. We can have this be more of an interactive show.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah, so go to the website, shoot us an email. Let's chat. Let me know what you're struggling with, and I'll give you any advice and tips that I can.
Tell us about that business tip that we have this week.
That business tip. So similar to, talking about how whatever happens that week. Earlier this week I was sitting with our friend Mike Thacker from the Work Lodge. Mm-hmm. I'll say ours because he's been on the show before. So
yes.
He's got a shared workspace, kind of like executive shared workspace environment off of Louetta in 249, actually, right over by Cryo Recovery.
They are right on the side of each other.
Yeah. So unbelievable facility. Mike's a great kind of visionary and thinker, and what he's built there is just totally different than any other product in the space here in Houston. And so I was catching up over lunch this week and was sharing with him about kind of what I was sharing with you guys last segment about we're at the point now with Brightbox that I'm ready to start looking at doing more acquisitions, buying up some web development firms or mobile app or social media groups. And, we started catching up about, man, what are all the things you kind of need to have in place, or what are the things that you look for in companies? And it kind of got me thinking again about CMG. And I don't know if I've ever even mentioned it on this show before, but CMG is kind of a process that I've used in developing my companies over the past 8.5 years, and it stands for compound marginal growth. And kind of the very high level principle of that is that I look for growth opportunities across three major kind of pillars of business. I don't want to just radically change overnight the sales department, or I don't just want to radically change our product or services, but I look for small 2 to 3 to 5% increase in efficiency across three main pillars. And those pillars are sales and marketing, operations, and finance. And one of the key things I look for whenever I'm buying a company is I look for a company where the business owner isn't intricately involved in either of those pillars, right? Which means the company could survive without the business owner. If not, then you're really just buying the business owner, and they're going to need to commit to staying on board, blah, blah, blah. There's
that makes it tough.
Yeah, it's a whole different scenario because then, a lot of times when people think of selling their company, they're thinking, hey, I'm going to sell it and I'm never going to have to work again. Well, more than likely, at least for the companies the size that I'm looking for, from the $500,000 to $3, $4, $5 million, it's probably not going to be that type of a payout. And you probably have a passion in what you do. So what I try to do is provide. Well, we don't need to get into all. We'll get into that on a different segment, exactly how that works. We've got Ivan coming up. He's going to share with us some of his tips, and I'll expand on some of those. But back to these three pillars. So why these things work so well, if you think of your business this way and you think of having to have a point person or one person responsible for each of these pillars within your organization, it's going to allow you to delegate and become more efficient. So you should always have someone on your team that's responsible for sales and marketing. And for most of us entrepreneurs, that's us. We start off being all of these things, but we normally let go of financing, we normally let go of operations, and we get stuck kind of being the front-end salesperson. And so this will probably be the hardest one for you to let go of, but partnering with a good marketing firm to help drive some strategy and some extra traffic towards the company is going to be good. And then finally, finding a good salesperson that can go out there and knock on doors, do the cold calling, do the networking is going to be essential to removing yourself from that component, because what you have to have at the end of the day is one person in that position that is responsible for reporting the effectiveness of the efforts to you, right? You need to get out from being in the business and running the business. There's two totally separate things. And so make sure that you don't get stuck in there. The other one is operations. This is very typical of the folks who come up. They're maybe a little bit more analytical. They like the day-to-day work. Maybe they're a technician of the trade before they started their own company. A lot of plumbers, electricians, engineers fall into this category where they're an operations person. And so they have a hard time selling and they can't ever get revenue up to where they need to be, but they do phenomenal work. Maybe they have a product like no other, and they beat the competition on quality and effectiveness and all these good things, but they just can't get the sales out there. That's because they haven't defined who their salesperson should be and make sure that they have someone in that position. But you also have to make sure that you don't get stuck just being the operations guy. You need to manage and oversee that. And then finally, the last one is in finance. And, to be honest, this is probably the one area, if I met a business owner that was intricately involved in the finance portion of their company, it would probably be the best place for an owner to be. But so many owners just don't go there.
Because that's not where their passion is, really.
Yeah, you see a lot of like visionaries and high-spirited people that they don't want to get bogged down in spreadsheets and figuring out cost analysis and what's our profit margin, and they just want to sell stuff and have it done and feel good. Mm-hmm. But this is where I don't have to tell most business owners to get out of the finance department. Most of them, usually it's their spouse if it's a small company. Love you, babe. Or they've hired somebody fairly quick to take over the accounting, the finance, the payroll, stuff like that. So
that's a lot of spreadsheet stuff. God, that's so boring.
Not your cup of tea, huh, John?
No. Yeah. Although I did watch. Have you ever seen the Smartest Guys in the Room? I think that's what it is. That documentary on Enron.
Yeah.
That's some insight right there, brother.
I'll get you thinking.
What?
Yeah, that goes right in line with, have you ever watched the show American Greed?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just unbelievable what people will get away with.
I just moved to Houston in 2002, and so everything was going on at that point in time.
The Enron bust, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really understand anything. I didn't understand the desperation of people that worked there. Oh, it's crazy. But yeah, so that's
you flood that many jobs into the marketplace at one time, because it wasn't like just they laid off a few. Everybody.
Yeah.
Because the company was basically non-existent.
Correct.
So,
and it all came from that special math where you can project what you
mark to market.
Yes.
Yep.
I had no idea. I also didn't know where the building was downtown, but they show the building a lot.
Well, we're not real downtown guys.
No.
I probably couldn't even point it out, honestly, if I drove by it.
Well, I could just because I saw him on
now
the show.
because I've seen it on the show, but then.
It's a good one to watch. I just wish it was updated because it was made in 2005.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's just not up to date. But anyway.
Well, so point being, finance is a big area and is one of the major pillars of your company. And usually this is where I see the most need for help and assistance. When I'm looking and I'm evaluating companies, a lot of times their books aren't in order. They don't really know what their margins are. They don't really know how to they're not taking advantage of tax things that they could be doing. There's just a whole wealth of issues that they just are blind to because they have, someone that took a CPA class, not even a CPA, like a bookkeeping class in college or something. But the key thing here, what I'm talking about, is make sure that you've identified somebody on your team that is responsible for each of those three things. And then that way, those people are reporting to you on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. You can set objectives and goals, and you can lean on them and put the pressure on them to have the accountability to get those goals done. And so that's kind of what my talk with Ivan was about at lunch. I thought it was good. It's a good reminder. I have to go back every month or two and kind of look at my organization and say, okay, who really is responsible for being the visionary? Who's really responsible for sales and marketing? Do I have goals and objectives for that person? How about operations? Who's responsible for retention? Who's responsible for delivering the product? And then in accounting, who's doing the forecasting? Who's doing the budgeting? Who's giving all the reports? And, over time, if you're not on top of it, a lot of those things will just kind of fade away. So it's important to continue to go back to it and reestablish, the importance of staying on top of your business.
And you mentioned Ivan. He's actually our guest that's going to be coming in with us next, Ivan Madrigal. He'll be right back with us on The Hook.
Now, girl, I know you're used to the same old same, but we ain't...
You are listening to The Hook, a business talk show that we cover marketing, and we don't only cover marketing and business, though. It's a lot of stuff.
Cover pretty much all things business, all things personal growth, too. Sometimes I think we get into some therapy sessions, but...
and we have a lot of therapy we do off the air, too, just between you and I. Sure. You have to kind of coddle me a little bit.
Well, one of the areas we've been talking about this show in kind of some therapy and getting companies ready is in mergers and acquisitions. Are you ready to sell? Is it time to sell? And our guest today is just going to be a wealth of knowledge for us. He's consulted with and held various roles with Fortune 500 companies in the area of operations, Lean Six Sigma, technology, and mergers and acquisitions. He's actually held roles with acquisitions ranging from $25 million to $1 billion. And in the last 2 years, he transformed a mom-and-pop building supply company into the largest and fastest-growing cabinet distributor in Houston, Texas. He's also partnered. He's a board member on a committee for a human trafficking group here in Houston.
Oh, okay.
So I want to talk with him about that. It's called Rescue Houston. And the list goes on and on forever. So let's just bring him on. Our guest today is Ivan Madrigal. Ivan, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So, obviously reading through some of the things that you've done, and I know there's a lot more. I've got a whole rap sheet here of your accomplishments and deals that you've been involved in. Give the listeners a little perspective about where you've been and kind of where you've come from, kind of set the stage a little bit.
Sure. Well, I started my career in Austin, Texas as a young entrepreneur in my early 20s and really cut my teeth and got some fortunate and signed some bigger deals, and then unfortunately signed a really big deal as a subcontractor to one of the big 5 accounting firms at the time, and learned a very expensive lesson that put me out of business. And so I dedicated myself. Yeah, it was one of those deals where I didn't get paid until the prime contractor got their part done. And even though I was on time and on budget, I'm the one that took the fall. So
nice. Yeah.
I went back and spent the next 18 years in corporate America, really just making sure that by the next time I went in and to be an entrepreneur again, I'd never.
You vowed not to do that,
again.
little contract negotiation strategies. Right. Yeah. You're so excited. Sometimes when you do those deals, you got the job, but some of those fine details, man, they'll slip up and get you.
Yep.
So you moved from there into basically into the company where you were doing a lot of M&A deals, right?
Yeah, I spent about 7 years in technology in Austin, and then went into Lean and Six Sigma consulting with Fortune 500 companies, and that translated into an operations leadership role in the energy space for about 7 years for a publicly traded company. And then we did a couple deals there, and then went into a full-time mergers and acquisitions role for an $18 billion energy company here in town. And did that for a few years. Worked on
some big numbers, Josh.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
Yeah, they were complex, and believe it or not, there's almost as much involved in a $25 million deal as there is in a $1 billion deal.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess maybe just the asset evaluation is maybe just a longer spreadsheet on the $1 billion one. I don't know, but
a lot more activities in the larger the deal to really integrate everything on the back end.
Wow. So you did that for 7 years doing, I know I said deals from 25 million to $1 billion. I'm sure you did some smaller ones over the years, but so you decided to move out on your own, I guess, at some point, right? To go back to running your own shop. I
figured out that, as much time as I was spending away from my family and time on the road, and as hard as I was working, I thought, I might as well be doing this for myself. It's time to go back to being an entrepreneur. So I hooked up with my childhood friend and best friend, and we basically kind of set out to build our own little miniature private equity company and build a portfolio of businesses. And so really how I got involved in the journey of being a mergers and acquisitions advisor myself was just through the experience I had when I went out to go look for companies to buy. It wasn't a good experience.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of those unregulated industries where pretty much anybody who's, I worked at a company or I had a company once, I could help you out and probably bite off more than they can chew, right?
Yeah, I'll just give you a simple example. When I went out looking at, I found some great businesses to buy that I wanted to look at. And, I called this one guy and said, hey, I'm really interested in this transportation business you have. What's the EBITDA of the company? And he said, EBITDA? What is that? So really couldn't have any basic conversations about the finances of the company. And so I thought, and then another gentleman that was representing another buyer said, before you speak to my buyer, you need to sign an NDA. And I said, great, of course, that we always do that. So I get the NDA, and the NDA was actually a purchase agreement. So I called him back and said,
jumping the gun a little bit here.
This is, I don't need to sign a purchase agreement. I just want to speak to the owner. I'll sign the NDA. And he said, no, it's not binding. I said, oh no, it's very clearly binding here. And he wouldn't let me talk to the owner. So I realized that, some of the people in the marketplace are really acting without integrity. And there's some really honest people that have great businesses that are not getting buyers to look at them because of the tactics of their brokers. Right. So it's really an important.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that is just them being malicious, and then maybe them just not having a clue. I mean, there's probably a lot of steps, and I've bought and sold several different companies, and I've never had representation, and I can tell you flat out, listeners, that I've been shortchanged, and I've overpaid, and I've probably underpaid, and all in all, I've probably caused myself a lot more headache in just trying to do it myself and just figure it out. So I think it's always a good idea to consult with a professional, at least get some type of consultation, know what you need to ask for, kind of a thing. So if any of our listeners, and by the way, guys, we're going to give some tips coming up in our next segment. So we're going to get a little bit more background on where Ivan's been and what he's doing now. But I want you guys to stay tuned, because coming up in the next segment, we're going to give you some tips. If you're thinking about selling your company or maybe buying other companies, we're going to get some tips on what to look for, things you can do to prop up. Ivan, how can folks get in touch with you if they have questions after today's show?
Sure. I'm happy to answer any questions. Just feel free to reach me at Ivan Mad, IVANMAD, at madrigaladvisors.com. That's MADRIGAL advisors.com. That's my email address.
Perfect. And if any of you guys are driving, you can't write that down, you can always go to thehookradio.com. Hit me up on email there, and I can get you in touch with Ivan for sure. So I guess one of the other things I mentioned too, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, is your involvement with Rescue Houston. I know we're talking business, and this is always one of my passion points here. Can you tell me a little bit more about Rescue Houston and what you guys are doing there?
Sure. So I'm on the board of Rescue Houston, and I should provide the disclaimer that as of this last weekend, I'm now engaged to the CEO and founder of Rescue Houston.
Uh-oh.
And
conflict. Must be a great organization.
But so we it's a wonderful organization, and we're a faith-based group, but we work with all types of organizations. We actually have a partnership with the City of Houston, very closely tied with the Captain Dan Harris of the Vice Squad.
Okay.
And we work with other organizations. We actually have over 250 resources to help women get their lives back on track. But we actually rescue, the main purpose of the organization is to provide a hotline in over 200 languages to provide a way out. So for women and men that are either being coerced or forced into some sort of sexual activity, prostitution, massage parlors, things like that, we allow them a way out. And if I can tell a quick story,
absolutely.
When before I got involved, I just thought that, human trafficking, I saw that movie Taken on TV and in movie theaters a while back. And, I just thought it was people, really being shipped across, the ocean and things like that. But that's we care about any person's life that's in that. But then also what you don't know, though, which is kind of the secret, is it's also your people from your own backyard. So about 3 weeks ago, we rescued a young lady. She was 18 years old. And just like, a lot of the younger people, and all of us, we're all on Facebook. And she got on Facebook and fell in love with a guy. And he took her to San Francisco for the weekend and wined and dined her. And she fell in love with him. And then they took a trip to Vegas. And he sold her in Vegas to 4 men and forced her to sleep with 10 to 15 men a day there for a week. And then they sold her to different men that in Houston, brought her down to Houston, which I don't know if people know this, but Houston is the #1 sex trafficking capital of the United States. And so she was forced to sleep with 5 to 10 men again a day here in Houston. And then she called our hotline and we rescued her and got her back home in California. So it's it can touch anywhere.
Yeah, it is a reality, folks. That's the cause that led me to running across Texas and running 30 marathons in 30 days was, bringing these types of statistics to reality and basically just into vision for me just had me fall to my knees and want to do something. And so I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. Is there a way folks can check you out? Is there a website for Rescue Houston?
Yeah,
or if they want to?
It's rescuehouston.org, and we would love to have any support, whether it be with volunteers or financial support as partners. Basically, it's about $700 per rescue. For each woman or man, and we actually, and people think it's just women. We've actually saved 2 men in the last month.
Yeah, no, I think it's great you said that. A lot of people do, and they don't realize the complexity of this industry and how many sick people there are out there with different desires. So yeah, that's awesome.
There's actually a great movie on Netflix that takes you through different people and their lives and their stories. I forget where this one woman was from, but she went to college, and then next thing you know, that she's someone's property basically, and forced to do it after going to college, and was in such a haze of drugs and being fed stuff over and over and over, and she really couldn't do anything for herself, and one day just got out of it. But it's crazy to believe that it could be someone you know. Yeah. And it could be.
Yeah. I've received letters from mothers who lived in the same school district as my kids, that emailed us and thanked us for what we were doing to raise awareness. So, look, if you're listening and you want to get involved, obviously you can go to rescuehouston.org or, go to thehookradio.com and email me directly. I'll help get you in touch with the type of group that may be best fitting for your resources. But it's definitely something that needs attention and needs awareness. So, so thank you for being involved with that group and doing what you guys do. That's awesome.
I have a quick question about, you said this earlier, that you went into business with your best friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's that working out?
Yeah. I see this all the time. And of course, you're not going to hear the stories where it works out. But a lot of times you see the stories of whenever you go into business with a friend or a family member, it just doesn't work out. It's like the band. You get the band together, you're all best friends going through high school, and then
somebody has to be the lead singer, man. Somebody's got to take
and so it gets tough after a while. So how are you able to work through that in a business that you have together?
Sure. No, that's actually an excellent question. And I answer that, and I help coach people on that all the time. And basically, there's really 2 things. One is you have to really know up front what you've got complementary strengths and weaknesses, so that you're both, not going to be in the same role with the same, you need to be complementary as opposed to being duplicative. And then really just sitting down up front to decide what make it very clear with each other what your roles are going to be. I'm very fortunate. He's really a big picture, long-term strategy, long-term thinker. And I'm truly a visionary, but I'm more at the, I guess, for each business, being the visionary role for each business. And he has, he brings the financing to the table and some of that kind of more global look of more global trends. And I really focus on managing the actual businesses himself. And so really he's kind of more acts, I guess, more like a chairman of the board for the portfolio of businesses that we have. And then I kind of act more like the CEO and business advisor to each of the businesses. Right. And then we have people in those businesses that really operate as sort of the integrator. We like to talk about a visionary and an integrator, and it usually takes both people to run a business. And
yeah, I think that's great. So it's kind of like the lesson there is establish your sandbox, right? Mm-hmm. This is going to be your sandbox. This should be your skill set, and this is going to be mine. I know those have been the best type of business relationships I've been into. When you get two sales guys that start a company together, there's going to be issues, Right. So like somebody's got to be production, somebody's got to be sales, somebody's got to be finance.
It just is hard to live by because you're looking over what each other does all the time.
Yeah,
and then when you get away from business stuff and you're hanging out, you're having dinner, you're having drinks, it's hard for it to not come back up.
Yeah.
So especially if you're in a tough spot. So I just wondered.
Yeah.
Just some advice.
Well, that's some good advice. Definitely solid. And coming up, our next segment, we're with Ivan Madrigal. We're going to talk more about mergers and acquisitions. How do you know if you're ready to sell? How do you know if you're ready to buy?
Excellent. It's all on the way next on The Hook. This is The Hook. You can always find us online, thehookradio.com, all our past episodes. Even if you missed part of this episode, you can listen back. You post that, a couple days from now?
Yeah. Normally by Monday or so, we've got it up.
That's the marketing maverick, Jason Arcemont. Got a great guest in studio today. I thought you were going to bring him back up.
I thought you were going to say, you're on a roll, man. You sounded great.
You know more of his title than I do.
Yeah, we've got Ivan. He's with Madrigal M&A Advisors. We're talking about mergers and acquisitions. Is it time to buy some companies? Is it time to sell your company? What to do, what to look for.
That's a tough spot to be in.
Whew, let me tell you, man.
You would know. I wouldn't.
Well, I've done a few of them. Nothing on the level that some of the big ones that Ivan's been involved with. But, I've done my fair share, and I've definitely made some serious mistakes. And, I wish I had known some guys like you whenever I was getting in the mix of all this stuff, Ivan. So I appreciate you being here, and I guess we're going to share some tips with some listeners.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to comment on something you said. You've been involved in some smaller ones, and not to the level that I did when in the past. But really, the space that I'm in now as an independent advisor, as opposed to when I was working with large billion-dollar companies, is that that's really the space where there's a gap. So if you're buying a $100 million company, you can go to an investment bank. And get represented that way. And if you're buying, maybe something that's smaller, you're going to be dealing with those types of brokers that maybe don't have a lot of integrity, as I've told you about in the past. But if you're buying something a little bit big, say it's $1 million or $500,000 cost to buy to somewhere up to $20 or $50 million, that's too small for the investment bank, but it's too big for somebody that doesn't really have the experience. So that's really where, in those small to medium-sized businesses, where
I guess in my scenario, we were doing deals anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million, and you're right. Like when I looked around my network of people, I knew folks that were in the M&A business, but it didn't seem like what I was doing was a fit for them. So this is good. So I guess one of the things that we were talking about off air was so many people, especially the baby boomers right now, right? They're getting older, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I've built a good company. I've been running it for 20 years or so, 30 years, and I think I'm ready to sell. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the market. What are they doing wrong here, Ivan?
Typically what they're doing is they're not planning to sell 2 years before they really want to
2 years.
Serious.
Okay.
Yeah. So really it takes about 2 years. And probably the biggest mistake people make is that, they've been involved in their business, and many times the owner is really the chief sales officer, if you will, and they're the one that has all those customer relationships. So oftentimes somebody will come to me and say, hey, I'm ready to sell my business. And we'll say, okay, well, who owns your customer relationships? Oh, well, I do. Well, you can't sell the company because no buyer is going to want to take on that risk that when you leave, now all of a sudden the company didn't have those relationships. You personally did, and you're exiting the company.
Yeah, right.
So you really have to work hard to get yourself removed out of those day-to-day operations, removed out of those customer relationships, and get other people in place that are going to be staying with the company if you really want to transition yourself to a buyer.
Yeah, we were talking about that in our second segment. Those 3 pillars I was telling you guys about in sales and marketing, operations, and finance. Like, I wasn't just saying remove yourself from those pillars just for the fun of it. I mean, I guess that's kind of what you're getting at, is that make sure you have somebody else in your organization that's responsible for each of those pillars, so that when you're positioning yourself for sale, hey, I've got a team that can get it done, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So what else? So I'm sure there's just probably a whole slew of things that you're seeing. So they need to make sure they're planning 2 years out before they're really wanting to sell, so they can start getting the organization and finances and everything in line. What are some other things?
Yeah, and some other things are really also focusing on what are the value adds for buying your company that aren't on the balance sheet, things that they're not going to see in the P&L. So do you have some type of proprietary technology or system that you've used, or a customer base that's very hard to break into, for example? So, and really thinking about, what are those strategic buyers out there that are really going to want to buy your business? I mean, if you just have an awesome company, it's just cash flowing like crazy, you won't have a problem. But many times it's just under the cover things. Yeah, right. And you need to be prepared to answer that question. So.
Yeah. But a lot of times what were you saying? That's just not the case, I guess. They're not cash flowing.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times people are taking in what we call add back. So your P&L, your profit and loss statement, may actually look like you're not making as much money as you really are. So when you're putting it's really helpful when you're working with a broker that they can actually put your company in a way that shows the real value, the real cash flow that's being generated. So I'll just give you a very simple example. Let's say that your company is making 300. It looks you're at the end of the year you're paying yourself a bonus of $150,000. You're paying yourself $150,000 a year. Okay. That bonus took all the extra cash out of the company, so it looks like it was basically net zero company, but you made $300,000. Well, when you go to line up, when you're working with a broker, they're gonna ask you those kinds of questions. Well, what are you paying yourself? We need to take that out, because if you're paying yourself $300,000, but it really only costs you $100,000 to hire someone to manage that business, then that $200,000 is extra value you don't have on your tax documents, but that is something that's of value to another buyer.
And you mentioned it earlier when you talked about EBITDA, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are probably going, they shake their head and say, yeah, I know what that is. You want to break that down maybe at a high level? Because I know the first time I went to buy another company, they were like, hey, well, we'll send over EBITDA and the P&L and adjusted EBITDA, and I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, all right, so cool. You'll learn something good here.
So just very simply, and without getting too complicated, it's just earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So it's really kind of, you can think of it as just before kind of the tangible dollars that are coming that you can pull out of the company.
Okay. So like that $150,000 bonus would have gone back into...
Well, so I mean, that would be an earnings, but... So, for example, if you're paying back, let's just say interest, let's say you have a lot of debt on the company. And so let's say that you're paying $100,000 a year of debt.
Right.
So your EBITDA would not show that $100,000. You'd be adding that back in.
Okay, right. So because if they buy the company, they're going to pay off the debt anyways, or you will.
Right. So it's really showing what the company would be kind of generating with the clean slate. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Does that make any sense, Josh? Josh's like,
something.
$100,000 a year in interest. How you like that one?
I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine what that would be like.
Well, hopefully you're doing several million in revenue. So what else? Any other major pitfalls? I guess it's probably the same thing if you're looking to go buy other companies, right? I mean, maybe that's where you kind of have the advantage that maybe they haven't been ready to sell, or...
Yeah, so when you're really looking to buy a company, again, and whether you're using a broker or not, I mean, one of the nice things about having a broker is a good broker is going to screen not only buyers but sellers as well. So if you're looking to buy a company, then a good broker is only going to bring you companies that are really ready to be sold, and if you're if you hire a broker to sell your business, then they're not going to just bring you every buyer that comes along.
Okay.
So it's really screening on both sides of that. But seller or buyer, people looking to buy companies, you can go to Biz Buy Sell. There's a lot of websites out there that you can go look at, and really probably the best thing to do, and this is sort of the approach that I took, is I went out and looked at those one paragraph summaries of just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies, and then kind of just narrow it down. So what you really need to be thinking about as a buyer is, what is the cash flow that I need to have when I buy this company? So if I'm going to spend $1 million, do I need to have $200,000 a year? How many years so I make back my initial investment? And how much risk do I want to take on? And do I know this type of a business? Or am I, in the case of you, Jason, you already have businesses. So are you buying another business just for scale or just to add their customer book? I'll give you a quick example. In the energy company that I worked for, we really just bought companies for scale. And so what I mean by that is that we had a set of fixed costs, our billing systems, our back office systems. So we just were buying books or customer basis of other companies, and then being able to take those, we really were closing down those offices and those employees, and then just putting them back into our business so that we would reduce our fixed costs spread out over more customers. So that's buying to scale. So there's different reasons, but in this space, you may just be buying a company to get out of. A lot of people are looking to exit the corporate world, and they're looking for something to retire on, and a job, something they've always maybe been passionate about and wanted to do their whole life. And so just making sure that you're really doing your due diligence up front. And if you don't have experience buying a company, you could get really burned if you don't have someone helping you through that due diligence process. That's key.
Yeah. And, I think something too for you listeners is, keep in mind, there's a lot of different ways to buy a company. You don't always have to have 100% cash up front. A lot of times there's just different ways to structure it. And I would really recommend meeting with somebody like Ivan, if you're thinking about it or thinking that, hey, that might sound kind of interesting, but I don't have $1 million sitting around, you'd be surprised what you might be able to get away with. Having a couple hours and paying for a little bit of time might really open your eyes to what you can do with it.
And that's a great point. A good business broker is going to have bankers they work with, so they'll already have businesses that they're selling or representing that will already be approved with the Small Business Administration for a loan with a bank, so that when you get a buyer, as you said, that may not have $1 million in cash, they may have 20% down. Well, you've already got the connections with the bank ready to go with the small business loan, and then make that transaction happen.
Yeah, and I know that's something that's really opened my eyes. Whenever I saw that, that's kind of when I ended up doing, 6 or 7 deals within the matter of a few years, and really helped us scale up and get to the size that we are now, and just under 100 employees. And it would have just taken a lot longer to do that if I did it just organically. So we're talking with Ivan Madrigal. Email address one more time. If somebody wants to get in touch, they got questions, what's the best way to reach you?
It's Ivan Mad, IVANMAD, at Madrigal, MADRIGAL, advisors.com.
All right. And for those of you who heard last segment, we were talking about Rescue Houston, this nonprofit that Ivan sits on that helps to rescue men and women from human trafficking. There is a way that you can get involved too without having to get involved. If you want to tell them a little bit about that deal?
Sure. Actually, we've formed a partnership with Entrust Energy here in town. They're an electric company, and if you sign up with them and use the promo code Rescue HOU, or go to entrustenergy.com/rescuehouston, we get $5 every month from them for every time someone pays their bill.
Look, there you go. You're going to get energy anyways. You might as well get $5 to a good cause and to some people that are doing a great thing. So that's awesome. Well, I know we've got a great show that's going to roll on to this same kind of topic next week. So I want you guys to stay tuned. Next week, we've got a group called NextSeed. It's a new type of crowdfunding for startups. I think you guys are going to be interested to hear what these guys are doing.
And you can catch this full episode whenever we post it on thehookradio.com. Any questions you have about anything we covered today, send it right through to Jason Arcemont. He's the marketing maverick, and you're